Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are. I'm Rachel Bevan, so I work in the UK Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, and I'm responsible for our Data for Development team and our data revolution work. So I'm here today to lead the session on monitoring SDGs for everyone, and we're here to talk a bit more about making the data widely accessible and engaging for stakeholders. The opportunity today is for us to really hear a lot more detail about how countries have actually been tackling SDG monitoring, and to tell you also, share a bit more about a programme of work which we've been working on with UN Statistics Division for the last 5 years, helping 20 countries across Asia and Africa to set up SDG reporting platforms. So in this session today, first of all, we're going to hear from UN Statistics Division to tell you a bit more about the achievements of this project. Then we're going to hear from 2 different countries. So we've got Laos and Rwanda to talk about their experiences. And then we're coming back to UNSD to hear a bit more about the lessons learned and about some of the tools which have been developed through this programme. So that's the rough kind of plan of what we're doing, and then we'll hope that there'll be quite a lot of time at the end to actually hear a bit more from you, both in terms of questions, but also it would be really great as well to hear any more reflections from other countries about what you've actually also learned in terms of setting up your own SDG reporting platforms. So first of all, I want to hand over to Francesca Perucci. I'm not sure if she needs much of an introduction, but Francesca is Assistant Director at UN Statistics Division. She oversees the work on global development monitoring, open data, data integration and dissemination, and various other global data initiatives. She's worked in the UN system for a long time. She's worked particularly on kind of gender and social statistics and authored a number of articles around that and a number of the MDG reports. And she's currently oversees the preparation of the yearly progress report on the SDGs as well. So I want to hand over to Francesca, who's going to tell us a bit more about the achievements of this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, and hello everyone, both our colleagues in the room here today. Welcome to this 3rd day of the UN World Data Forum, and to everyone who's joining us from around the world. And I know there are many of you out there, so thank you for being with us. Also, before I go over the brief presentation that I'm planning to have this morning, allow me to thank our colleagues at FCDO for a wonderful collaboration over the years. And this is a long tradition in our division. It goes back to the MDG period when Rachel was managing the MDG work from her side, and we were working together on the monitoring of the MDGs. So we kept the strong collaboration when the SDGs started. So it's been a wonderful journey, and both teams have worked really, really well together over the years. And we have achieved a lot with the countries, our partners, and we've applied, the spirit of the project that is really about engaging with all stakeholders in the country and in every country where we have been working. I'm not sure I have the presentation up. Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much to our technical colleagues in the background. So what I'd like to talk briefly about is just what the overall, I think we are on.
It's the other one.
Back, I can go back myself? Yes, you can.
This is my presentation. Yeah.
Allow us 1 second while our colleagues pull out the presentation, which is going to be about the achievement of the project so far.
There's a 3rd one.
We do have a beautiful slide here. It's competing with the view outside the window, which is also very beautiful.
The only thing I
Okay.
It's in the same presentation. I think it just has to go back,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, so there was a piece before there that should have been, I think she sent two different ones, but then that one has been missed. So I guess you just speak without...
Okay, no worries.
No slides then.
No slides, and apologies also to the colleagues, the audience who join me remotely, but I can speak without the presentation. We just wanted to highlight what the main objectives are of this project. Number one, to achieve improved capacity of project countries to monitor progress towards the SDGs, to increase the availability of SDG indicators both at the national and international levels, and to improve coordination of national statistical systems around the work on producing the SDG indicators in countries. So what has been achieved, and we are getting sort of closer to the end of this phase of the project, and we've seen that all countries have now national SDG platforms, and they were launched, and they have improved accessibility of data to all users. So they have managed to provide a platform where all the SDG indicators produced by the country are together in a user-friendly and very accessible way. Using, of course, different technical and IT technology and solutions, but all towards offering a platform that is accessible. Many countries have used this platform in the preparations of the voluntary national reviews. Those are the what we call VNRs. Those are the reports that countries bring to the high-level political forum every year, which is the moment that the member states gather in New York to review progress towards the SDGs. So those are the voluntary reporting, and in their national reporting, because many countries have national reporting that they use to bring together different policymakers at the national level. They have improved coordination through the process of pulling together the platforms, and through other mechanisms. They have improved coordination and increased data sharing across the national statistical system, with the National Statistical Office at the center. They have developed user engagement strategies, and they have implemented those strategies that has really achieved greater awareness of data, and has also ensured prioritization of activities and of the users' needs in activities in the countries. Also, a big component of the project has been the work on SDG metadata. And as you all know, that's a very critical aspect of pulling together the SDG indicators, both for the users who know and understand what the indicators are, but also to exchange data across both within the countries and with the international system. SDMX-based data and metadata also have been developed, and they've been used to exchange between project countries and the international partners. For those of you who are not familiar with the SDMX, those are the standards that were already applied to some extent during the period we worked with the MDGs data, but they were further developed and applied to SDG indicators in this new phase. And finally, they have supported work to provide a response to the crisis and the challenges of the COVID-19, including the establishment of COVID-19 data hubs and improved data visualization. And that's important to mention because, of course, although the project objectives were set in the beginning, as the COVID pandemic started last year, many countries had to somehow divert their attention from the work on SDG indicators to addressing the new challenges posed by the pandemic, including the need to provide COVID-19 related data to the government and to the various parts of the government. So this is where I'll stop, and of course then our colleagues will elaborate more on what the project has offered and has to offer, and the countries will talk about their experience. So I'll stop here, and thank you so much. Over to you, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Francesca, for sharing the overview, and thank you to the tech team as well, because we can also see the slides, so that's great at the end. Now we're actually going to hear directly from the countries. So first of all, crossing across the world, we've got Jean-Luc Kabera, who's a statistician in the National Institute of Statistics for Rwanda, NISR, and he has experience in data management, data dissemination, and data visualization. And he is responsible for actually building their SDG reporting platform, but also he's been doing a lot of work as well around user engagement. So we're really excited to hear what you've got to actually share from the country perspective and to help us to understand a bit more about what's really going on in the country. So over to you, Jean-Luc Kabera. Thank you.
Good morning.
Here you go.
That's great.
Do you see any questions?
We can hear you.
Yeah, can you present my PPT?
I think they're just trying to put that on, but maybe if you start speaking, then as you're speaking, they'll put the presentation on. Thank you. We're just trying to sort out the tech. But maybe can you start talking, Jean-Luc, and then we can try and get the presentation showing. Thank you.
Okay. If the presentation is not available, I can move.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here today. It's my pleasure to be a part of this successful event. My name is Jean-Luc Kabera. I'm from National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, and I'm working from Data Dissemination Unit. User engagement plays the main role for making data accessible and engage stakeholders to track the progress made to achieve SDGs. In Rwanda, statistics are produced and used for evidence-based decision and policy-making. This ambition is only achieved if our statistics are accessible and used outside and within government. In this presentation, I would like to talk a little about user engagement and why it is important. What is the type of users and how do we engage them? What are the user activities currently done here in Rwanda? And lastly is a conclusion and way forward. User engagement. Thank you. Next. Okay. User engagement is the process of conducting a dialogue with the users of official statistics in order to understand their needs and improve the products, services, and operation of a statistical organization. It measures whether users find value in a product or services we provide to them, and it focuses on continuing and improving the relationship our users have with us. Next slide. So why user engagement is very important to us? It creates opportunities to discuss existing statistics to improve statistical literacy, strengthen data integrity, trust, and a collective sense of ownership and statistical dissemination. It generates feedback from users that encourage NISR to prioritize work based on the statistics the users needs. User engagement also helps us to identify and fill gaps in knowledge on both sides. Here, I mean on the side of producers and users' side. Next slide. National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda engaged the statistical users based on their needs. For example, we have a microdata and metadata platform for researchers. We highlight key figures in the press release to engage and make media understand where statistics we published. Policymakers and civil societies are engaged through infographics, policy briefs, and accessible data portals. Students are engaged through trainings, competitions, and internship. Next slide. We did many activities to engage our stakeholders and data users. We conducted a training workshop on SDG monitoring and reporting. The objective was to engage our stakeholders and discuss how timely and high quality SDG data should be available and reported. In partnership with UK Office for National Statistics and UNSD, we developed an Open SDG Data platform for national reporting. This platform helps us to engage policymakers by showing the current status of SDGs indicators reported via the platform and the progress made to achieve this agenda. We conducted a training workshop with journalists. The objective was to engage media and promote excellence and creativity in the reporting of statistics-based stories to the public. So journalists from different media houses trained about infographics and data visualization techniques to present statistical data. Students engaged through infographics competition. The objective of this competition is to increase statistical literacy and awareness, as well as statistical advocacy in data dissemination. So infographic competition is used as a tool to engage student community in visualizing statistical information produced and disseminated by NISR. We have also reading data with the children and training of high school teachers. Reading data with children is an initiative that helps us to engage young people in statistical activities and let them understand why national development programs and global agenda like SDGs are so important on sustainable development. So every year also we celebrate the African Statistics Day. It is an opportunity that brings together producers and users of statistics for discussing on different topics like SDGs and other activities for development of statistics. Next slide. This is a picture of some more infographics products produced by students during the competition. Students do data visualization on the topics we provided. Next slide. This is also the slide that shows a chart explaining child malnutrition visualized on the map. It shows some stories from newspapers after training on data visualization. Next slide. As an outcome, visitors, web trafficking, and downloads of microdata increased. Data stories and infographics in TV shows and newspapers increased. Collaboration with NSS members, media coordination, and network improved. Statistical awareness and statistical literacy enhanced. Dissemination of statistical data also enhanced. Next slide. Conclusion and way forward. Improving collaboration with users is needed. Many public sectors both producing and using data and statistics. We need to work together to communicate our statistics in a consistent way. Extending collaboration within and across NSOs will breed better partnerships. Building capability and equip producers of statistics with the practical skills and the tools to deliver effective user engagement activity is very important. So we need to have the skill sets to better understand our audience. We need also to tailor our communications to meet the needs of wider audience and deploy different techniques to engage them. Next slide. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you, John-Luc, and thank you so much for sharing your experience. It makes it just so much more tangible, and hearing about the work that you're doing is always really, really inspirational. Just hearing so much about how you're engaging such a wide group of users, from school children all the way through to your policymakers, that you're not just working, with the policymakers, but you're working with that wide group. So it's fantastic to hear that. We're going to hand over now to the next speaker, who's going to tell us about her experiences in Laos. And we're going to hand over to Ms. Fitzsimonson, who is the Deputy Head of the Laos Statistics Office, and she's going to share some of her reflections on setting up their SDG platform. She's been the Deputy Head of the Laos Statistics Bureau since 2017, and she's in charge of supervising the Department of Economic and Social Statistics, the international cooperation work, managing of censuses, contributing to the country's national statistical system. And she's also works on the Secretariat of the National Steering Committee for the implementation of SDGs in Laos. So over to you now, Ms. Fitzsimonson, to tell us a bit more about your experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your kind word introductions, and distinguished panelists and participants. In line with the sessions, I would like to share and exchange on Lao PDR experience in enhancing the national SDG reporting platform. The presentation will be at 4 points. Next slide, please. First, on the national SDG planning and implementation process. Second, on the role of the Laos Statistics Bureau in the BNR review process and the national SDG monitoring and reporting system. And third, on the national Open SDG platform for Lao PDR, where I will focus on. And lastly, we'll focus on the challenge, lesson learned, and next plan. Now, allow me to come to the first point. Next slide, please. The SDG Roadmap includes advocacy and communications strategy was approved in 2019 by the National Steering Committee, which was established or appointed in 2017. As a result, the SDG integration framework adopted and streamlined in the National Social Economics Development Plan, and the SDGs indicators are localized, and the capacity building and the development program have been implemented by the different modalities. The SDG tracking progress platform is the best solutions, which is designed by also National Steering Committee and the National Statistics Office in the system, that using this platform as a forum where we can consolidate the different sources of the data toward the harmonization, and challenge can be addressed and overcome in the real-time manner. The integrations, the next slide please, the integration and localization is evident by this institutional arrangement and setup with the strong national ownerships. There are 60% of indicators were integrated to an SEDP number 8 in the last 5 years, and remaining indicator is integrated in the current 5-year plan 2021-2025, and the rest will be integrated in the future number 10 of NSEDP during the period for CAM 2026 and 2030. Next slide, please. You can see that the current the role of the Statistic Bureau as a coordinator of the entire statistical system. We aim to track the SDG, not only the achievement, but we also aim to track those who remain challenges and those are off track, and including the source of information or where the data is not available, or if available, but some issue like in terms of quality. So with this demand driven, LSB had played an important role to addressing this data gap and data quality. And we play a very key role in the VNR review process, as well as the SDG monitoring toward the demand of the National Socio-Economic Development Plan, monitoring and evaluations. You see from this slide, there are 3 VNR to be produced. So actually we finished number 1 and number 2, and the second VNR has been presented successfully by the Minister of Foreign Affairs at the high level for political forum this year, 15 July. Next slide, please. The National SDG Monitoring and Report Platform is a mechanism to enhance the better coordination across the international institutions as well as the international agency. You will see the National SDG Reporting Platform with the red triangle there is really a tool where we use to bridging the demand and also the addressing the data inconsistency from the national sources and international sources. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The Lao Open SDG Platform was launched in mid this year, 13th of June, during the National Statistical Day. At the moment, this platform is work in progress. At the moment, we integrate or consist of 9 specific goals, which address in the VNR number 2. There are only at the moment 150 indicators with update up to the 2020 data where it's available, and in terms of metadata are available in both in Lao and language, but we just complete only 25 metadata. As I mentioned earlier, this is a working in progress. So we aim to upload all 60% of indicators that we planned upload by the end of the year. Next slide, please. Here are for your information for those who interested would like to visit our Open SDG data. You can go to www.lsb.go.la/SDG. Next slide, please. So the current platform is working in progress, and actually what we have gained so far, you will see these are 3 beneficiary area or dimensions. In terms of compilation, I think we bring together data and metadata from across a producer in the country, and in terms of communication and dissemination, we also make SDG data available where it's possible, and this data already support the last 5 years plan assessment and also support the current ongoing endorsement 5 years plan. And at last, it is really frame the coordination as an instrument for the coordination and to carry out by member of the National Statistical System. Next slide, please. And in this slide, you will see, these are the key users in Lao PDI, and I believe this is the same from every in any country in the world. So we have we believe that we will engage through this open SDG data platform. We will be able to engage citizens and policy influencer, government, NGO, and other expert data users. Yeah, next slide, please. There are the reason behind, and I think from the presentation from Francesca already clearly mentioned why they are not only now applying this, and I think at the moment under the support of UNSD, about 20 countries, if not more than that, already. So we are using this platform because it is flexible, and it is a very the simplicity of it, where we can access at the same time. We can disseminate and also access to metadata, where the user like to evaluate the quality of the data before they use them. And easy for us to visualize by graph and math. And for those who want to download them, you can do it. And finally, this is a multilingual. Although we still have some issues in terms of Lao language, but we think in the future we should be work out how to improve it. Next slide, please. And the structure of Open SDG Platform, when we adopt it, is very simple. Just follow the goal, target, and indicators. We have national and global. And we have the subsection, data, metadata, and graph. Yeah, next slide, please. And so take this opportunity, I would like to express, express our sincere thanks for the support from the government and development partner, and special thanks to UNSD-FCDO project in supporting us in the capacity building development and the implementation of this particular SDG open platform, among the others. Next slide, please. Now I would like to share with you about some key challenges, lesson learned, and next plan. There are two challenges addressed here. So first, we experience that we have no expert in LSB in this hub, and then also data gap and metadata is not available from all sectors. Two lessons learned in terms of this open SDG platform. First is we still need a lot of regular capacity building, and also this have to be a regular process. And next step, of course, we will focus on data compilation. We will complete on the metadata and upload them into SDG open platform. And then at the same time, we should look at the existing platform like Cloud Info, Design Info, AMIX, DHS, etc. So we have to interlink them. Next step, please. And in this slide, I brought you a broader perspective regarding to the VNR lesson learned. I don't mean to read them out, but I brought it here is really looking at the second lesson learned is the National Steering Committee, the government, and the stakeholder are recognize the importance and recognize that the issue of statistical capacity building is essential, and the quality of the data and I would say the support for disaggregation of the data is a must. Next slide, please. And again, for the broader perspective, there are key follow-up actions for SDG implementation and monitoring, but I like to point out about this data statistic actions. They are in the statistical program. We have update our NSDS 2016 to 2030. To 25, and we are now implementing the statistical program 5 years, the last 5 years, yeah. And we have specific program on SDG program number 9. I would say that. So I will not read them out. So let me go to the last slide. That next slide, please. Yeah. So I would like to conclude that the SDG Open Data Platform have strengthened the institution coordination, especially in terms of data compilations and data dissemination, and make them access to not only for the government and policy maker, but also to publics and user and citizens. And finally, I would like to end my presentation by calling the continued support. And we believe that with the strong support of the government and together with the development partner and international donor, we hope will increase the effectiveness of National Statistical System, in particular the LSB and Lao Bureau of Statistics, to inform the policy, enable citizens to count the LSB accountable, and support production in the new data ecosystem that leave no one behind. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Vetsumonson, and thank you for sharing from a very different perspective about some of those actual challenges in actually getting the data together from different bits of government and getting it into the one platform. That's really, it's really great to hear that. Our next and final presentation, before we can go on and actually hear from you a bit more, is from Vibeke Nielsen, who's an interregional advisor on statistical training and capacity building at UN Statistics Division. And she's been doing that role since 2018, when she also took over managing our program and project. So we've been working very closely together on that. And she, previously to that, she's worked in Statistics Norway at the Division for Development and Development Cooperation. And she particularly has been working a lot around the areas of vital and health statistics and on issues around displacement, administrative data, questionnaire design, and lots of other things. But what we really want to hear from you about today is really about the tools and materials. So this project was only able to work in 20 countries, but we're really keen, particularly as we're drawing to an end, to actually look at what tools and materials we can make available to a much wider group of countries, and to actually learn these lessons and to be able to share them more widely. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks to everyone who's joining us today. As Rachel was saying, we have focused a lot also on making materials available more generally, and we quite early set up a project webpage that you see in my presentation. The project webpage has quite a few different pages. I think something that you might find quite interesting is the country pages. We have a page for each of the 20 countries where you can check in what they have been doing. You can also find the link to each of their platforms and to a lot of the other work that they've been doing. So if you want to see what the other 18 countries have done, you have a chance to do that by visiting the countries folder or slide on top there of the project website. We also have another page that focuses on the different activities of the project. I think we heard from Francesca and also from the countries on some of the different elements that we've been working on in the project, which includes the SDG platforms. It includes data and metadata compilation according to STMX standards, and it includes user engagement as some of the key activities, and you can read more about it there. In the meeting pages, you will find all the materials from trainings, some of the things that I'm also going to talk about now. We did a lot of face-to-face trainings before the pandemic hit. Since then, we've also done a lot of remote trainings. So you can find both the training materials from the face-to-face trainings, as well as the webinars from a lot of the online trainings and workshops that we've had as part of the project. And that also just reminds me that I wanted to share that all of the countries have been really, really active during the pandemic as well. We heard from Lao here, for instance. I think the majority of the work that Lao has done has been during the pandemic. So it's really impressive how they have managed to do all of this work in the last 18 months. Also, as we heard from Lao, they prepared their whole voluntary national review and set up the platform during the pandemic. Next slide, please. One of the most recent tools that we have developed and that countries are starting to use is an SDG and COVID-19 data visualization toolkit. The toolkit aims to support countries in data storytelling through infographics, reports, online platforms, presentations, and promotion materials and social media. And the toolkit includes over 300 icons in SVG format, which means that you can use it in various programs like Microsoft, but also Adobe. In addition, it does also include a number of different templates for creation of infographics, reports, brochures, and so on. This is something that is available not only to the 20 countries, but to everyone who wants to use it. It's free, so it's just to go and play around with it. We just put it up also on the project website. If you go to the meetings page, you can see the webinar where a training was held around it, and you can also find the materials. So we hope that you also will enjoy it and make use of it. Next slide, please. Here is just some examples of the icons and templates. You can see that there are icons for all of the different SDG goals that can be used, showcasing and kind of trying to make some visuals for the different SDG indicators. And then there's just some templates that also could be a starting point for creating more engagement materials. We heard from Rwanda, they had already done a lot on them by themselves, and I know many other countries have too. But here could be some further ideas and some support to create more engagement materials. Of course, also putting some of the national context in there. Next slide, please. We've also created a lot of training materials, as I said. So far, we have one e-learning course that is available, that is finalized, which is on a national metadata compilation. You can find it from our project website, but also from a platform that has been developed called UNSD-DESA Learn Statistics. And you can also find it on the learning platform of the UN Statistics Division. We are also currently developing further e-learning courses. That is an e-learning course on user engagement. There will also be an e-learning course on how to do SDMX data modeling. And we will enhance the metadata course. One of the pieces there, for instance, will be to have some microlearnings. That means short videos or short materials that just focus on some of the key elements. And we're also working on some other microlearning materials. And then I think something that some of the countries also have been asking for are the different aspects, how the different pieces fit together, what to do when, kind of some guidance, and we'll try and put a kind of a more interactive guidance document together on this as well. So you hope that will be helpful in the SDG process in countries, and also for everyone else who's interested and would want to explore more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I haven't heard about micro-learning, but I'm going to look at that now. And I like the idea personally. Sounds fantastic. And it's good to see that you're covering the full range from the detailed training through to micro-learning. So now we get to the opportunity to become a bit more interactive and to hear some questions, but also, do feel free to, I'm not sure if you can post comments, but maybe you can through the app. For those that are joining, it would be good to hear any reflections as well on your own experiences, any challenges you've faced, but also any successes as well. Would be really interesting to hear about those. I'm just looking first of all at the app, where I think there have been a couple of questions, but maybe if I can go to the first question through the app, and then we'll kind of come to the audience here. So I'll try and alternate. Angela Navarro from Open Datasoft in Paris is asking, do you think that creating open data portals, which are more easy to understand, much more easy to understand visualizations, would help to engage citizens more into consulting, understanding and reusing the data? So I don't know, but it would probably be good to hear maybe from Jean-Luc, I'm thinking that, and then from Fetsa as well, about your experience in terms of actually creating these open data portals. Has it really helped to engage more citizens in the process? So if we could go to Jean-Luc first of all. Thanks. If he's still there. Or maybe not. Maybe we can go, okay, in the meantime, let's go straight over to Lau then. If we can go to, if you had any reflections on that question, Fetsa Monson, did you manage to catch that? Thanks.
Chen-Lu, please go ahead. I follow.
Oh, here it is.
Let's go straight over to Lau then. If we can go to... We're back with Rwanda. Let's hear from you first. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chen-Lu, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Back with Rwanda. Let's hear from you first.
Okay.
Too much delay. Okay. In which case, we'll maybe leave that for 1 minute and see whether or not they can kind of come back on that. But it would be good then to go to the room here to hear, I'm very interested to hear any reflections from other countries about your own experiences, but also if you have got any specific questions, then very happy to take those now. And if you can just say who you are and where you're from as well, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Just looking around to see any at the front, in the front row. Thank you.
Hi, Gracious. It's good to be here in the World Data Forum. Thanks for organizing. I was just wondering, since education is one of the biggest topics that is going around, how can microlearning leverage this particular topic so that we don't lag in that particular delta that has been happened due to the pandemic? Any comments, please?
Thank you. Maybe that's one for you, Rebecca, if that's okay. Thank you.
I think both the longer e-learnings and also the micro-learning is a very helpful tool for giving access to more people, right? Having materials available online allows everyone to access. Of course, you need the internet connection that is good enough and stable enough, but in some cases, you're even able to download the materials, let them kind of sync, be processed, and then you can watch them offline even. So I think that allows a lot more people that maybe usually wouldn't be allowed to travel, that may not have the possibility to join trainings, etc., to also learn and to learn at a time that is convenient to them. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And if we can cross over to the gentleman on my right. Tanzania.
Okay, thank you. And I would also take this opportunity to thank the presenters and the UNSD for this kind of work that has been done, especially during the time of the pandemic. My question is just to see the reflection, especially the experience from Lao. They have did a very good job, especially for this time. But I would like to see the experience if they did they start from the scratch while developing the National Open Data Platform? Because this is very important to avoid the duplications, or did they continuing or developing the available local platform? I just want to see that experience from the Lao. Thank you.
Thank you. We will try and cross over to Lao if we can to hear back, but if not, we might have to do it offline afterwards. Were you able to catch that question, Fetsa Monson?
Yes, thank you for the questions. I saw because I cannot hear very well, but thanks to this written from the chat. The question is that very good job, and if whether we start from the scratch. So let me start like this. Yes, as I mentioned in my presentations, actually. We have a common database we call LAO-info. So we have some experience in terms of putting data together and harmonize them and disseminate them. However, this Open SDG platform is really implemented in the mechanism of the SDG implementation, which streamline with the national social-economic and plan. So we able to really focus with all line ministries and the user, because the user also engage in the process. When we prepare the VNR is really prepared based on this proactive, the participatory approach, and we also engage the user and policymaker and also citizen and even the private sector. So between this framework, we decide to adopt this Open SDG platform because I mentioned why don't we expand the LAO-info or expand other database. So we think Open Data Form is very friendly and simplicity and flexible, and I think we therefore, to answer your question, we are not really start from the scratch, but there are some challenges, as I mentioned, and some capacity building need to catch up, and also interlinkage between this Open SDG data platform and other current existing database in Laos. I hope I answered your questions.
Thank you very much. No, I think that I think that's great to hear from your experience. Thank you on that. I think we've got another question on the app, so I'm trying to look at it. And I'm not quite sure who's the best one to answer this, but we're asking about, somebody's asking, what are some of the proven first steps to launching a citizen science plan where stakeholder engagement can be optimal? I'm not really sure on the best person. I don't know whether or not we've got any reflections from either. We're with you at the moment, Fetsamonson, so maybe any reflections from your side. But if not, we can go to Rwanda and see if Jean-Luc has any thoughts on that one. So talking about citizen science and whether or not you've been able to engage more on that side.
I couldn't really see it. Yeah, it says studies not.
Would you like me to also answer these questions?
If you don't mind, if you had any short reflection on that, that would be great.
Yeah, I actually, yes, I would like to share some view. As I mentioned, very clear that when we decide to come to this panel by sharing our experience in terms of implementing this Open SDG platform, I clearly mentioned that we are working in progress. And there are many things to learn and to build. But to your questions, what are some proven the first step to launch a citizen this one? So I think, as I said, this Open SDG platform is really demand driven and designed by not simply decision of the Statistical Office, but this is designed by the National Steering Committee of SDG. Therefore, we are now prepared this first launch is really focused on these 9 goals of VNR report number 2. And as I mentioned earlier, that the VNR process is the process where the government and the Secretariat of SDG implementation is really involved the many stakeholder and its wide range of stakeholder engagement. So, but now come for the statistic perspective. I will be very frank with you that at the moment, I think we will continue to work with UNSD and other development partners, thinking about the user engagement strategy. And certainly the experience from Rwanda, from my panelists from Rwanda will be very good example and experience for us to learn from them. And we plan to create our user engagement strategy and the plan. And for sure, I think in that plan will include the citizen as a key user, one of among other one key user in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think we all kind of appreciate that we're all probably in a very similar position, that we create a reporting platform, but then there are always improvements to be made. I know certainly in the UK, when we started using the Open SDG Platform, one of our ministers was speaking at the Data for Development Festival, and then on his way back on the train, he went into the UK Open SDG platform and started to count up how many indicators we had and how many were missing. And then he called us in and called in our Office for National Statistics to explain why so many indicators were missing. And we had some difficult discussions on that, but we kind of all appreciate, that we were starting with somewhere, and then we're very much kind of building on that, and actually then trying to kind of get more engagement, get more indicators, get more inclusive indicators, and it's very much a process. It isn't something that we just kind of do as a one-off kind of thing. It is, as you're saying, it's about continually trying to improve and learning as well from what other countries are doing. And within the UK, we've also been using the same platform which we took from the US. But I know that as we've been working with other countries to develop their platforms, there have been a lot of improvements that people have been suggesting that we've been able to then bring back to the UK as well and actually build into our own platform. So it's been a really great kind of two-way process. And we look forward to kind of, to more of that, to kind of actually hearing more about how people are using these platforms. But also, I think, some of the lessons as well around user engagement. It's fantastic to hear some of the kind of more creative ideas about how you can engage users. And I think there's a lot more that we could probably do in that area, and actually to think a bit more like they're doing in Rwanda about how we actually engage people right from school children up to policymakers, and not just engaging with the kind of traditional groups. I don't know whether or not we've got any more questions in the room here, if anyone wants to put up their hands in terms of any reflections or questions for any specific speakers. In the middle. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm working for Humanity and Inclusion, a French NGO. And in both presentations from Rwanda and Lao, civil society and NGOs were presented as users of data, which is actually the case, and we are very happy when we are able to get quality data. My question was, do you think that civil society and international NGOs should also be engaged in data production for monitoring of the SDGs? And if yes, in which way?
I mean, I could definitely answer for the UK, but more importantly, we're here from countries themselves. Can we go first of all, and maybe kind of being mindful of time, if we could make this the last comment from Lao and then from Rwanda, because we've only got 2 minutes left. So just a quick, short comment on that would be fantastic. Could you just say a bit more about, whether or not civil society or also you think they have a role in terms of actually collecting and producing the data as well as just using it? Thank you. Is there a bit of there's a delay, which is making it a bit more complicated.
She's muted, I think.
Okay, can you unmute? I think we can hear you. Yeah, can you talk?
Try to talk.
Can you try to talk? Thank you.
Let me try to answer these questions. It's very interesting questions. The audience would like to know whether or not we also engage the NGOs, international NGO and civil society in the data production, in monitoring. Actually, as I speak from perspective of the data producer, actually it is our dream actually, because we want to involve them, but as experience in Laos, we still have very limited room to involve people directly participate in the statistical activity, maybe because of the limitation of the budget, or maybe the limitation of the interest in the ways. But if I speak on behalf of SDG Secretariat, yes, I think the National Steering Committee or SDG implementations under the umbrella of the NSEDP monitoring evaluations, we are open widely to include the civil society, including the private sector and also international NGO in the process. It is very evident based. You can find at the VNR number 2, where it's very described very clearly how this process had gone through and how they involved in this monitoring and tracking and SDG and evident like this year. We decided to have this 9 goals in the report. It is very in line with the National Socio-Economic Development Plan number 8, which is we already complete, and based on this 5 years plan assessment, and also check out what the need for the current or the 9 5 years plan. So in short, I would say that in the past, in terms of data production and monitoring, we not widely involved yet, but as I said, we intend to include them, and when we will have this formulate our user engagement strategy, so we will make sure that we involve the user, including civil society and international organization, as much as possible through this SDG.
Thank you. We're going to have to stop at this point.
Under this SDG National Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, but apologies, we have to sort of stop at that point, always when it gets more interesting. But thank you so much to the speakers for your time today. Thank you especially for joining us from Laos and from Rwanda. Really great to hear your experiences. And thank you to everybody attending all around the world and here as well. Thank you so much. Bye.